Hello everyone, I am Dr. Beth Secord, and I'd like to say a few words about learning and going to school during these crazy, uncertain, very different time. Just in general, it's harder to be a good student and to think clearly during stressful times or under stress. Yes, it's harder to think clearly when you're stressed out or you have this load or burden. I just want to say that we all carry invisible loads of stress. So I'm sure that you have your ball of stress, the load that you are carrying. You could personalize that to yourself. Many of us carry these huge burdens, but are not aware of what we have on our shoulders. So, and here's another point. Different people have different capacities for handling stress. So some people just have an inborn ability to handle stress better than other people. So if you have past traumatic experiences like PTSD, and I know many of my students are veterans, you have some history of trauma with being in a war, and then you come into the classroom and you face a stressful situation, and that can just everything can come out. So you already have this underlying trauma, and then you add some stress on top of it, and that can just overwhelm you. So I have PTSD and CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress, which is abuse or neglect on a low level that continues over a long time. So people can have complex post-traumatic stress from childhood neglect or abuse. So PTSD is more like really dramatic one-time or two-time events, or being in war. CPTSD is just living in a dysfunctional or in a chronic environment, an environment that produces chronic stress or abuse for an extended period of time. So having these PTSD or complex post-traumatic stress is going to make it harder. You have a lower capacity for handling more stress because you already have, your nervous system is already primed up with these things. So different people have different capacities for handling stress depending on their current social support network. So do you have a supportive or unsupportive friends and family? Supportive social network it'll help you. It'll give you a higher capacity for handling stress. You may have genetic predispositions toward anxiety and hyper-alertness, like sensory differences, not be neurotypical in the way that your brain processes information. So those could be just genetic predispositions. And then also, here's a different type of genetic predisposition. It's called epigenetic mutations that are caused by intergenerational trauma. So I only put one source down here, but there's a lot of sources that show that if you are descended from refugees or from Holocaust survivors or from traumatized parents, that you yourself inherit this sort of anxious outlook onto the world. So that would lower your capacity for handling stress. Okay, what's next? Your brain on stress. Okay, so why are we talking about stress in a philosophy class? The stress that you experience directly affects your ability to learn. So here's a very rough sketch of how our brain handles stress and how that stress might impact your ability to learn. A very basic illustration of how stress affects your ability to learn. Okay, here we go. So there are three basic brain, body, mind states. And let me just fast forward to them. Where are the three? Boop, here they are. So there's the survival state, which is the brain stem, the most primitive area of our brain. There's the limbic system, which is the emotional system. It's developed later. It's the mammalian system. And then there's the prefrontal lobes, the prefrontal cortex, that is represents the executive state. So your brain stem is focused on survival. It's the oldest and most primitive part of the brain. And if you feel like your safety is threatened, it gets activated. And it gets activated in a fight, flight, or freeze response. And that response happens in your body. So if you do not feel safe, for example, I mean, this could even be activated. I'm not talking about gunshots. I mean, gunshots would activate it. But even like if you're in the classroom and the teacher picks on you and says something really mean, you might feel a fight, flight, or freeze response. So you might want to attack the teacher back verbally or even physically. You might want to run out of the room crying, or you might just sit there absolutely stunned and have no idea what to say. So that would be an example of a fight, flight, or freeze in like an ordinary circumstance. This part of the brain is activated. It asks the question. Obviously, it doesn't really ask the question, but it is sensing whether or not you are safe in your environment. Okay. What if the answer is no? So if you don't feel safe, your brainstem kind of acts like a fire alarm in your head. Your whole nervous system will be on high alert. Your body will feel tense, your blood pressure will go up, your heart rate will go up. So if your brain and body are on high alert, it is difficult to impossible to be receptive to learning new things, because you have a fire alarm going off in your head that's saying not safe, not safe. And how well can you listen if there's a fire alarm going off? You just can't take anything in because the fire alarm is so loud and distracting. So it is difficult to access higher areas of the brain because you are wired, the lower, the brainstem, you are wired to find safety first. The priority, when that fire alarm's going off, the priority is safety, safety, safety. So you have to calm that part of the brain down, then you can learn about philosophy. So this limbic system specializes in social connection. It increases your likelihood of survival to be part of the pack. A herd of zebras. A zebra alone is going to be easy pickings. Zebra belong with other zebra. So this part of the brain asks, do I belong? It needs meaningful connections to others. If you do not feel loved, you don't feel like you belong, you don't feel like you have connections, will block your ability to access your higher reasoning. And so what if you don't feel connected? So different people respond different ways. This isn't a psychology class, so it'd be really interesting to study. You could major in this or go get a PhD in this about how to help people who don't feel connected. But anyway, if you are numbing, if you're busy, if you're preoccupied, you're not going to be able to access your higher order abilities. You need these two online to have the executive state, the learning state, to be online and functioning optimally. So we'll look at this. So these are all the higher brain states. Goal achievement, so setting goals and working toward them. Task initiation, getting started on doing stuff. And emotional regulation, which is not freaking out and being able to soothe yourself, control yourself. These are all higher brain skills states. They would be hard to access if you don't feel safe in your own community. You're walking around and you feel like you're going to catch a disease and die at any moment. That is going to keep you from, or it's going to make it harder, or keep you from accessing these skills. And guess what? What do you need to do well in school? All of those things, right? And it'll make it harder. So I'm going to lose my job. My parents are going to die. There is no future. Am I going to get sick? I'm not safe in my own community. All these things, all these worries. Gosh, I hope I just didn't plant all this into your head. But all these worries make it so that these things will be difficult. Attention, time management, organization, prioritization, okay, all that. So these are concerns specific to COVID. And the reason I'm giving this lecture is because we're all under some pressure because of this plague that has descended upon us. But this lecture would be relevant pre-COVID as well, right? Because you all have stresses, some of you more than others, and it's good to be aware of how these things can affect your ability to learn. Okay.